Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Amanda Fest podcast, where our mission is simple. It's to inspire and empower you to take aligned action towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. We have another solo episode today where I'm going to be giving you guys the tea on what's been going down the last couple weeks in my life. But before we do that, we're just going to take a quick moment to ground down. I know I need it, so wherever you are, if it's safe to do so, I invite you to close down your eyes. I like to put a hand on my heart, one on my belly. Just start tuning into your internal world. Taking a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. With your inhale, I want you to imagine your whole body filling up with an intention. I think mine is presence right now. Letting go of anything that is not aligned with that intention. So for me, that'd probably be stress, anxiety, fear, doubt. Just letting that go with the exhale. Breathing in your intention on the inhale. We're going to do that a couple times. Nice deep breath in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Final one, in through the nose. And out through the mouth. Welcome. Open your eyes. Come back home. Welcome to your bodies. Welcome to Amanda Fest. I don't know if you guys have felt the full moon eclipse energy the way that I have, but holy fucking shit, that was intense. I'm still integrating. For those who don't know, on March 14th there was a total lunar eclipse in Virgo. So I looked this up. I'm going to read a little bit of this to you guys. So on March 14th, 2025, there was this total lunar eclipse in Virgo, and it brought up themes of release, reflection, and realignment, particularly in the areas of health, habits, routines, work, and personal growth. Yeah, this was an intense full moon for sure. I was actually supposed to go to a drum circle on the full moon, and I was so tired. My body was just craving rest, and so I stayed at home and just integrated on my own that night. But yeah, the last couple weeks have been really interesting. A few themes have come up for me for sure. We're going to dive into them, but just to give you a little bit of a preview, we're going to talk about expanders, which I think we talked about a little bit on the last episode. We're going to talk about driftwood. We're going to talk about getting clarity on what we're calling in. We're going to talk about rejection and redirection, and we're going to talk about discernment, you guys. So let's dive into it. So since we last dropped in, I was telling you all how I was on this market research mission, right? How I'm here in Miami right now, and I've made it my goal and my intention to tap into the health and wellness scene, understand the landscape, kind of get a pulse on what's going on, who are the major players in this area as I create something. I'm working with my business partner, Alex /Made for Magic, and her and I are putting together some epic events. We're doing some pre-parties for Miami Music Week, but the ultimate goal is to create this sober dance party experience. And in order to create something in a certain landscape, you got to know, what are you working with? What exists here? What's working? What's not working? Who are the players? Yada, yada, all the things. So I had heard for a really long time that there was an experience at Space Nightclub where every Saturday they do yoga at Space. So again, for those who haven't ever heard of Space, Space is one of the most iconic clubs in the world. It's known for its marathon parties. I think they're like one of the only places in the country or the world that has almost a 24-hour liquor license. And so these parties start at like 11 p.m. the night before and they go until 3 p.m. the next day. So this place is super, super iconic, and they have a partnership with this organization called Yogi Invaders, which apparently they've been doing for years, where every Saturday you can go and do yoga at the club. So they have a live DJ. I went and my mind was just like so inspired. I'm all about unique experiences, right? And of course, my passions are music, travel, intentionality, play, and to be able to merge some of those worlds together and have mindfulness yoga at a club with music. I was like, this is such a fucking cool and unique experience. So they had a couple of different vendors there. We had the yoga, there was a live DJ playing, and then there was a sound bath after, and the experience was just unbelievable. They did such a good job. It was totally packed. So again, in the market research realm of things, there's such a desire for unique, cool experiences like this. And seeing this play out for me was just such an expanding moment of what is possible. My wheels have been turning for the last few weeks, really getting clarity on what am I calling in, what am I desiring to create. And so the more and more that I go to events like this and I see people doing it, it's those expanders of here are people that are 5 minutes in the future from me doing versions of what I'm desiring. And it's amazing and incredible. And I'm like, cool, we need more. We need more things like this in the world. And I'm so grateful to get to experience and to see what people are already doing and to let that be expansive and inspiring, and then utilize that as fuel to what else can we build, what else can we create, what else can we do. So this same weekend I went to Space and I did this yoga class, but it was also my first time reuniting with a really close friend of mine. And this is big. I want to touch on this because there's a lot of medicine in this. So I have a very close friend / soul sister, somebody that I met back in LA. We met at a women's workshop back, I want to say in like 2021. We've sat in many, many plant medicine ceremonies together. We have gotten very, very, very close over the last few years. And back in October of last year, we went and sat with ayahuasca together in Mount Shasta, and we had a little bit of a falling out. They say that the medicine can work in mysterious ways. I did a whole episode talking about the ayahuasca experience, and the medicine never hit me in the sense that I didn't have a psychedelic trip. I still purged, and things came up like this disagreement with my friend. It was pretty gnarly, honestly. We both triggered each other in pretty intense ways, but subtle ways. And it just escalated to a point where, you know, I ended up changing my flight home, and it was not a good situation. This was one of my closest friends. And to be fully honest, I thought at that moment that the friendship was over, that things had just escalated to a point and it had gotten so bad that I was like, I don't think that there's any coming back from this. I think that the friendship is done. That's what a past wounded version of myself. That's how it used to be back before I had better communication skills and better relational skills. Anytime something came up, it was the end of the friendship. There was no recovering. There was no conversations. It was just, that was going to be it. Her and I took a little bit of space, and then a month or so later, we got on the phone and we talked about what happened. And it was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my life. I resisted the conversation so hard because who wants to have that conversation? Who wants to dive into the shit? Who wants to take accountability? It's easier just not to, right? It's easier when you get into a fight with someone to just chalk it up to, oh, friendship over and we're done. But obviously when you really care about somebody and you really love somebody, it's worth fighting for, right? And so her and I had a conversation a little bit after that, and it was one of the most healing conversations I'd ever had in my life. It was fucking tough. Basically, the way that we structured the conversation was we each gave each other the opportunity to speak without interruption. So just to share from our perspective what happened and what came up for us and how it made us feel. And again, like, nobody gets to interrupt. We just get to express. We just get to share and hold space. And so each of us did that. And then we opened the floor for a little bit of a back and forth. And it got really fucking ugly. Like, I am a pretty even-keeled person. I don't really get upset. I'm not typically bothered to that degree. That conversation really got super ugly, where both of us were feeling really hurt and really triggered. And we came to the understanding that both of us had our perspectives of what had gone down, but neither of our perspectives were 100% accurate because each of us was projecting what we believed the other person's actions to mean when in fact that isn't what they meant. So all of this to say, we went in, we really, truly, and I laughed because I said that the medicine never hit me. And I was like, okay, the fact that I'm having this massive disagreement with such a close friend of mine and being forced to confront it in a way that I never have before, and to have this conversation, this was the medicine. This was the work. This is what Aya was doing, was like, hey, you've done all this work, you've come all this way, now let's put it into practice and see how you show up. Real growth comes from being confronted with similar situations to ones that you have in the past, but choosing differently. An old version of me, like I said, would have been, I'm so averse to conflict that anytime something bad or challenging comes up, my first instinct is to run, to shut it off, to be like, nope, friendship over, we're done, I don't want to deal with that. But this version of me was like, okay, I have the skills, I have the tools, I have the ability to work this through, so let's do that. And so we did that, and we both heard each other, we both came to an understanding, but it was still kind of like, you could talk about things all you want, but sometimes it just takes a minute for it to move. The energy's still there. Even though we both understood the other person's perspective, there was still this kind of interesting energy. And we weren't going to be in the same physical location for a while. So I think that served us because it allowed us to take a little bit of space. So we had our falling out in October. I think in like November, December-ish, we had a conversation. We were okay. We were good. But things were still not 100%. And also we hadn't physically seen each other since then. So there was still that element of like, yeah, we're good. I love you. I forgive you. But things still feel a little uneasy. We took a little bit of time and space. We allowed the relationship room to breathe. No ill will, nothing bad, but just natural space. And so cut to, now we're in March. So December, January, February, March. So it's like 4 or 5 months-ish since that moment. And she lives in Miami, but she travels a lot. So she hasn't really been here the whole time I've been here. And basically it aligned where she was coming back and I was here, and we were like, cool, let's see each other in person. And so there was a lot that was coming up for me because I was like, okay, this is my first time seeing her in person since all this went down. I wonder what that's going to be like. There's still that question mark, that curiosity of, is it going to be the same? Is it going to feel different? Is it going to feel weird? Has the energy shifted? So I wanted to go to this event at Space, and she was in town, and I was like, hey, if you want, I would love for you to join me at this event, and then we can get dinner together afterwards and spend some one-on-one time together. And she agreed and came, and it went so well. It was so beautiful. It was like nothing had happened. We were able to pick right back up where we left off, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And again, I think that's just such a testament to the growth of, it wasn't like we let the issue linger for that amount of time. Like, we addressed it. The issue came up, we talked about it, we addressed it, we gave the relationship room to breathe. And then in this reunion, we both went in with no expectations and just open to what wants to unfold. And now I have my friend back, which is so beautiful and amazing, and it feels so good, and I'm so grateful. But I felt like that was a really big piece of medicine that I moved through in the last couple of weeks that I definitely wanted to share with you guys, because I know that that's super, super relatable of, you know, relationships ebb and flow and they go through seasons, and the relationship's not always going to look the same, right? There are periods of time in which you're in the same location as a friend and it looks one way, and then maybe your friendship turns long distance and it looks another way, or something shifts and changes and they're not addressed. And so I think just that openness to the ebbs and flows of relationships. And I'm just excited that we were able to move through this and that it feels good and we're in a good place. Even looking at all my relationships right now, I'm in different layers of that experience with other people right now, where there's certain things that come up, certain triggers, certain wounds, and then the relationship needs space and time to breathe. And then knowing that there's a possibility for that relationship to come back. this was a really beautiful, like, full cycle experience for me to just recognize and know, cool, that's possible. Amazing. Wow. So healing, so beautiful. So we go to Space, me and that friend get dinner. We spend some time together. I ended up staying over that night. And then the next morning, I had one of the longest days of my life. So I went back to Coffee and Chill because Alex hadn't been to the event yet, and I wanted her to get an understanding of what the vibe was, what was going on. It was a bigger event. It was at a different venue. It was really great. It was so funny. So on Saturday, the DJ that played at yoga at Space was also the DJ that played at Ecstatic Dance in Miami that I went to a couple weeks ago. And then I go to Coffee and Chill on Sunday and it's the same DJ. And I'm just laughing again because I made it my intention to tap into community, to understand who the players are. And I'm recognizing, oh, within 2 weeks of being in Miami, I know everyone, right? I know who all the players are. Once I've gone to this event, that event, and this event, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing similarities. I'm seeing the same DJs. I'm seeing the same people kind of coming about. So we're piecing things together. My intention was just to start the dance floor again. So I did that. And again, I noticed so many of the same things of people needing permission to play, people needing permission to dance, people needing permission to have fun. I was dancing alone on the dance floor for a good 30, 40 minutes. And then same thing that happened at Pups and Chill the weekend before. It was like there was one guy that started dancing and then another guy that started dancing. I spent some time just sitting and observing because obviously I was there for a good time, but I was also there to do some research and to understand the landscape of how these events play out and how they work. And it was very interesting to watch. You know, I'd look over in the corner and I'd see someone kind of like shake it. And I'm like, oh, they want to dance. They definitely want to be a part of this. But they need permission to come onto the dance floor. It wasn't until there was this one guy who literally would like point to people and be like, you come here. And then people get on the dance floor and you just see how people light up and how much they want to move and they want to connect, but they need permission. What I really noticed at this last event, there were all these different vendors and people, again, they don't know what to do with themselves. They feel uncomfortable, so they just are waiting in line. So it's an event of all these people and they're all just like waiting around and waiting in line. And I did have some conversations with people that were there and I was asking them what they thought of the event and what their experience was. And a lot of people gave that feedback of just there wasn't really an opportunity to connect. There wasn't really an invitation and a structure in place for people to talk. First of all, I also want to say I'm so inspired by these events. They're obviously doing a really great job. They're getting incredible sponsorship. They're getting incredible turnout. They're growing. They're doing a lot of things really, really, really well. And there are certain things and certain elements to these events that for my events, for the events that Alex and I are desiring to do, we're looking at these events and saying, okay, this is awesome. How do we want to shift and make this different? For our events, we want the dance floor to be the center conversation. We want this to be all about the dance. We want it to be all about connection. We want it to be all about movement. We want it to be a different thing, just a different type of event. So that was really great. Alex left a little bit earlier than I did. I stayed, and then, of course, I got to witness the dance floor grow and grow, and then I got to build these connections. I'm finding all these party starters, too, right? I'm realizing if you want a thriving dance floor, you need these party starters, these outgoing people like myself, like these guys that I keep finding at these events who are going to pull other people in and give them permission to express, play, have fun, all the things. So essentially they have Coffee and Chill every other weekend, and then within the alternating weekends there's another event called Pups and Chill. So I told you I had gone to both of them, you know, in the last vlog I had explained I went to one and then I went to the other. And again, we're still in this process of doing market research, getting clarity on what's working, what do we want, how do we want to iterate, what's going on. And so Alex and I had tickets the next weekend for Pups and Chill, and my intention for that one was I really wanted to meet the founders of that. So there are these two guys, Mike and Zach. So the following week, our goal was to meet those people and connect with them because ideally one of our goals is to do a collaboration. So how can we bring the Made for Magic, a Manifest experience to an existing event, infiltrate that event, make it about the dance floor, get people to understand what our vibe is, and then ultimately we'll have our own events. But I think the first step is let's just collab. Let's collab with something that exists, something that works, and just enhance it and make it even better. So at the end of Coffee and Chill, I was leaving the event and I am standing outside. I'm talking to this girl and she was like, oh, I teach these twerking classes at this place called Mindful Music Lab. And I was like, oh my God, I just met the founder of Mindful Music Lab yesterday at Space because she did the sound bath. And again, just all of these pieces I'm telling you, I'm like, it's this confirmation from the universe of this alignment where I'm like, okay, the DJ is the same DJ from Ecstatic Dance, the same DJ that I saw at yoga. Now I'm meeting this girl who's inviting me to a class, who's doing her class at the venue of somebody that I met yesterday. So I'm just like, okay, like alignment, pieces lining up, great. So her and I start walking out of the event together and we're chatting. I tell her that I'm a nomad. I think she asked me about Nicaragua. And there was some guy like standing there kind of overhearing our conversation. And so he chimes in and he's like, oh, Nicaragua, blah, blah. Her Uber gets there. So she leaves and the guy is like, hey, like, where are you going? Basically trying to solicit me for a ride home. And in the past, I'm like a fuck yes friend. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, whoever, let's go. But in this stage of my life, I'm being a little bit more discerning and I'm not saying yes to everyone and everything. And so he initially asked me what direction I was headed in and if I could give him a ride home. And I was like, I'm not so sure. Like, no. I think I asked him if he had been to this event before. And then he was like, oh, I have my own event called Pups and Chill. And I was like, you're fucking kidding me. I was like, the fact that I had set my intention for the weekend after to connect with the founders of Pups and Chill. And I leave this event the weekend before that. And somebody asked me for a ride and it literally is the person that I set the intention to connect with the next weekend. I was just like, okay, universe. So I look at him and I was like, okay, yes, I'll give you a ride home. Sure. Because obviously I had been wanting to connect with him because I wanted to learn more about what his event was. So I give him a ride home. He lives at this beautiful complex in Brickell. And as I'm driving him home, he's like, what are you planning on doing the rest of the day? And I was like, I kept hearing, because I heard at the last Pups and Chill, that the central location where all the people sort of congregate is this place called South Point Park. And so I was like, well, I'm kind of just around. I was planning on checking out South Point Park later today. That's where all the acro yogis hang out. And so I start driving him home and he's like, well, my apartment complex is also a hotel and they have a beautiful pool. He was like, I'm going to go to the gym, but I'm happy to swipe you up and you can come and hang at the pool until you need to go later. And I was like, great, amazing. So we start talking, we're chatting. Obviously, I'm asking him a ton of questions about Pups and Chill. We're talking about our thoughts on Coffee and Chill. We're just comparing notes. I tell him all about my experience working in the film industry and what I did with Glenn. And we're just having this incredible conversation. He swipes me up to the pool. He's giving me a tour of the pool. We're chatting. And we get so deep into a conversation that he's like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the gym. I want to talk to you. Let's continue this conversation. So we keep chatting. He ends up offering me a job. And also, by the way, like on top of all this, like, you know, I have a manifest, I have the podcast, I have the content creation, I'm doing events, but I'm also still in the market for some sort of supplemental income as I'm still on the path towards monetization with all these things, right? And 2 days before I had said, I'm calling in a remote job that's super aligned, that's going to support me financially while I get everything else off the ground. And then boom, here we are. I had the exact person that I was trying to meet that comes and finds me, asks me for a ride home. We end up connecting and we end up chatting and then he ends up offering me a job. And I'm like, what the frickety frick is going on, universe? So we get into this great conversation. He's telling me all about what he's doing. And the job that he ends up offering me is in brand partnerships, which if you listened to my vlog a few episodes ago, when I went to St. Pete to go visit my friend Thomas, he had the download. He was like, I feel like you would be incredible in brand partnerships, so I'm just planting that seed for you. And so I'm like, all of these pieces, again, I'm like, universe is just like, here's a little snippet, here's a little snippet, here's a little piece, here's a little piece, and I'm just gonna like plop, 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 plop. It was just one of those crazy days. So I end up hanging out with him for basically the whole afternoon. We're chatting, we're talking about this potential business opportunity, we're talking about a potential collaboration with Pups and Chill. It's great. It's all the things that I was desiring. We obviously build a strong connection. So now I have a relationship with this person that I was desiring to connect with. So I'm like, check, 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 check all the boxes. So the afternoon progresses and now it's getting time to go to South Point. And he wanted a ride to the beach. So I end up driving him to the beach and then I go to South Point. We say goodbye. I'm still just like, oh my God, I can't even believe that happened. Like the person that I was desiring to connect with came and found me. Of course, again, we're getting back to the point where it's just like when these crazy things happen, instead of saying, oh my God, I can't believe it, I just keep saying, of course, because of course, these serendipitous things happen because I'm in alignment, right? When you're in alignment, the universe will just sort of pave this path. And if you're paying attention, you will notice all of the synchronicities and it is wild. It's so wild. So I drop him at the beach. I go to South Point. I get there and it is poppin'. There are so many people. So South Point, if you know LA at all, there's this thing in LA called the Santa Monica Green, which is basically this big patch of grass that every Sunday all the acro yogis gather, and that's where they all hang out. They do acro yoga, they do slacklining. There's some rings that people play with. South Point, super similar. There's slacklines, there's acro yogis. It's like right on the water where the sunset is, and it was just magical. So I was meeting up with my friend Garrett, who I had met at Pups and Chill 2 weeks prior. But also I was just on my own kind of vibe and, doing the thing. While I'm there, just talking about, again, like how it's like 2 weeks in Miami and I'm meeting all the players. I saw the drummer that I met at Coffee and Chill 2 weeks before. I saw people that I met at Pups and Chill 2 weeks before. I saw the founder of Yogi Invaders, who I had just met a couple days before at the Space Yoga event. It's like all of the players, all of the people that I had been connecting with and meeting in the last few weeks in the scene. Like my friend said, he's like, this is a space where they all congregate. So it was really cool to get to see that. I made some beautiful connections. I got to chat with people. I even got to connect with somebody that I had known from LA. I didn't even realize there was an acro yogi conference or like a convention happening. So there was an extra amount of people. So that was like a particularly really good day to be there. So my new friend Garrett spins fire and he was like, hey, after acro yoga, come down to this pier and we're going to spin fire on the beach. And I was like, amazing, great, so excited. So I was lingering, wandering around, making some beautiful connections, chatting with people, doing the thing. And then at a certain point, I look over and I see this really cute guy who wasn't a part of the acro yoga people. He was walking his dog and looking and watching what was happening. And I saw him and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go say hi. So I went over and I was like, your dog's really cute. He and I started chatting and we immediately just dropped into this super intense conversation. We went really deep, really fast, talking about healing and plant medicine and travel and music. We had a really strong connection, like right off the bat, super fast. And so after we were chatting for like 20 minutes, I told him that I was planning on going to see my friend Spin Fire if he wanted to come with me. And I was like, I don't know, like, is your dog, like, can your dog come? Are you cool with that? And he was like, yeah, I'm totally down. So we were leaving South Point Park. To the right is where the fire spinning is. And his dog starts pulling to the left. And he looks at me and he was like, I think my dog wants to go home. Are you down to walk back with me? I'll drop the dog off and then we can go see your friend Spin Fire. And I was like, yeah, I'm in flow. Let's go. So I'm walking back with him. We're having this amazing conversation. We're really vibing. He is like, in my imaginary checklist of all the things that I'm looking for in a partner, I'm like, check. And also my brain is just like, what a fucking day this has been, right? Like I woke up at my friend's place who I had just made up with. We had this beautiful morning. We had breakfast together. I had this incredible day at Coffee and Chill. I danced for hours and hours. Then I met this other guy that I was desiring to connect with. And I spent all afternoon talking to him. He ends up offering me a job and a collaboration. Then I drop him off and I go to this space and I'm having all these beautiful connections. And then I meet this guy and I'm like, what the fuck is this day? What is going on? Literally, what is happening? So we're walking. I walk back with him to his apartment. He lives in a really beautiful building, like really nice. I go with him to his apartment to drop the dog off, and it is like one of the most amazing apartments I've ever seen. Like on South Beach, overlooking the water, absolutely beautiful, but like very well curated too. And so he gives me a tour of the apartment and he goes into the guest room and opens up the guest room closet and he has a fucking Burning Man costume closet in his apartment. And I was like, I think I'm in love with you. Like literally, if you know me, you know I had a costume closet in my last apartment. I'm like looking at the items in his costume closet and he literally has the same fucking like disco cowboy hat that I have. And I was just like, this is insane. I think I just met the love of my life. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but this is crazy. So we end up hanging out. It was interesting. I'm obviously alone in his apartment. This is a stranger that I just met, but our vibes were vibing. But it was like super platonic. Like, I wasn't getting any kind of romantic vibes at all, which was fine. I definitely appreciate that. But I was a little bit like, okay, like I'm obviously feeling something, but maybe that's not what this is. So we're chatting. It ends up getting late and he's like, I'm really tired. I don't think I'm going to make it to the fire thing. And I was like, that's totally fine. I'm open to how the night wants to unfold. That's totally cool. So we're chatting, we're talking, and he's like, hey, I'm going to a sound bath tomorrow if you want to come with me. And he shows me where the sound bath is and what the sound bath is. And wouldn't you fucking know it, it's literally Mindful Music Lab. It's the same girl who I did the sound bath with at Space the day before. And that morning, her name came up again when this girl invited me to a twerking class at the Mindful Music Lab. And now this is the third time that I'm being invited. And I'm just like, okay, universe, I get it. There's like connection. Yes. So he and I say goodnight. Again, nothing romantic, but I'm like, I got excited. I definitely had a crush on him. I say had, so you know how this ends. But I definitely was feeling some feels. I was very excited by him. I don't get excited by people often. I am looking for something really, really particular. And he just happened to check a lot of those boxes. So I let myself get a little bit excited. I ended up staying another night with my friend in Miami Beach because I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between my parents' house here in South Florida, which is about an hour away from Miami. So going back and forth from Miami to here, it's been a little bit challenging, definitely reminiscent of my days when I lived in Altadena but worked in Century City in California. So Sunday's over. So I end up messaging my friend. She's like, Amanda, don't drive home. Stay with me. If you're going to go to another event in Miami tomorrow night, just stay. So I was like, okay, no problem. So I'm driving back home. I'm just processing like what a fucking insanely magical day that was and just how many synchronicities kind of came up and how many alignments were just like boop, 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 boop. And I was like, this is so insane. Like universe, spirit, God, like I don't know what is going on, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for the lessons. I'm here for the magic. I'm just here for it. So I wake up the next morning and I'm doing some admin work and I'm definitely crushing on this guy. I'm just thinking about the night. I'm getting excited about seeing him again. I'm excited about the possibility of what this could be. I'm hoping that there's a different vibe shift. He also mentioned that a close friend of his who he had been talking about, he had mentioned this friend a few times. This is like his best guy friend. That he was also going to be at this thing. So I was excited to meet his friend and kind of get a vibe for what that was going to be like. So cut to that night, I go to the sound bath. I arrive and it starts and he is not there. And I could feel like my little girl self kind of just like feeling a little bit sad, a little bit like, oh, like I literally stayed to come and see him again and he's not even gonna show up. Like, damn, that sucks. So I close my eyes, the sound bath begins, and about halfway through the sound bath, I kind of heard some rumbling next to me because there was some open space next to me. And I look over and he and his friend were setting up their mats next to me. And I kind of like smile at him and I was like, okay, yay, he's here, great. So obviously we don't talk during the sound bath. We do the whole sound bath. And at the end of it, we get up, I say hi, I meet his friend, we're chatting, and the energy is a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought that they were a couple. Like, it's very, very clear that they are super, super, super close, like really, really good friends. And so it kind of felt like I was third wheeling a little bit, like they were here together, and it didn't really feel like very warm and open energy, which kind of sucked. But I was still remaining open. And again, like who I am, I'm a very open person. And so I was trying to suss out the vibe, right? So the sound bath's over. I couldn't tell what the energy was. It didn't seem like he or his friend were really open to talking to me. The energy was super weird. And so I'm mingling, I'm chatting with some other people. I met somebody who like asked for my phone number. I'm getting hit on by different guys there, and I'm kind of looking over, and these two boys are in their corner talking to each other, and I was just like, this is so strange. He invited me to this. I thought that the vibe or the energy was going to be different, even if it was platonic, right? Even if it was just friends. This didn't even feel like, oh, I'm like welcoming you into my friend circle. It felt weird. It felt really, really, really weird. So as the crowd's dwindling, people are leaving, they're staying. I wind up going over to the girls who ran the sound bath, and like, these girls, talk about fucking expanders. These girls are so fucking cool. Truly the epitome of what I'm desiring to step into. They are fully living in their dharma. They are these magical, wonderful, smart, ambitious, cool, talented girls, and I'm truly in awe of them. And so are these boys. And so we're all sitting there, and these boys are looking at these two girls like the fucking manic pixie dream girl. So the manic pixie dream girl is a trope in film and literature that describes a quirky, whimsical female character who exists primarily to inspire and transform the male protagonist. She's often free-spirited, eccentric, and seemingly unburdened by the realities of life, bringing excitement and adventure to a man who is typically brooding, lost, or emotionally stagnant. So I was introduced to this concept back in Tulum by this girl that I was staying with, who is a manifestation coach. And I talked about her in the Tulum episode if you want to go back and hear all about this. But basically, I'm looking at these girls and I'm like, these girls are freaking amazing. These boys are looking at these girls like they are fucking God's gift to the world. And I don't blame them. Like, I truly don't blame them. But it really felt like such an interesting dynamic, because there was a lot coming up in this scenario. So we're sitting there, and it's these two boys, these two girls, and me, because I'm like there, and now I'm at a point where it's awkward if I leave, but it's awkward that I'm there, and I'm just trying to engage. And I'm engaging with the girls, and they're engaging with me, but the boys are giving me like this kind of interesting energy. And they're talking about all these things, like they're throwing these parties, and they're going to Ibiza, and they're having a house. They were inviting these girls and talking to these girls about these things, and it was like I was just kind of there, and it was honestly super, super, super awkward. I felt really uncomfortable, but I also couldn't leave. So it was just this really weird situation. But in the moment, as I was sitting there and I was watching these guys and I was watching these girls, and I was just like, oh, this is the prototype of what I'm desiring, in terms of these are the types of guys that I'm looking for. They're smart, they're into mindfulness, they're into wellness, they love to travel, they are into music, they work with plant medicines intentionally. There's this whole list of things. And then I'm looking at these girls, and these girls are me basically 5 minutes in the future, right? One's a DJ, one's a sound batch, they have their own company. So I'm like, okay, I'm witnessing right now what I'm desiring to step into. And then like my ideal partner, quote unquote, looking at these girls with just these wide eyes. And I was just like, okay, maybe these guys aren't my guys, but this is confirmation of what I'm desiring and what I'm desiring to step into. And I'm kind of getting to get a little preview and like watch it play out, which was cool. Again, another expansive moment. Meeting these girls was such an expander, but also brought up so much like, I'm not good enough. I'm not that yet. I'm stepping into that. And I just felt really, it was a tough night. So we leave, and again, like I'm walking out, and I'm still unclear what the vibe is with these guys. So we're walking out, and I'm ahead of them, and they're a little bit behind me. And I was just like, were they going to invite me to coffee? Is there going to be a conversation? Did they want to hang out? And I even said at one point as we were walking out, I thanked him for inviting me to this, because obviously the experience with him was weird, but the sound bath itself was great. These girls were amazing. Like, I was so happy to be there. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for inviting me to this. And he goes, in front of his friend, he's like, oh, I didn't invite you to this. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, you did. And he was like, oh, you said that you were already going to this. And I was like, No, I said that when he had mentioned who was running the sound bath, I was like, oh, I know who that is. I didn't say, oh, I'm already going. And so that was really awkward. And that was the whole vibe of the night, right? The vibe was I was under the impression that he had invited me to this event because he wanted to continue getting to know me and spend more time with me, whether it was romantic, whether it was platonic, whatever it was. I thought that we definitely hit it off the night before. There was a vibe, and I thought that there was a desire to continue exploring whatever this connection could be. And then when I arrived, the energy shift was extremely apparent of just like, oh, you're here. Like, it was so weird. And so we walk out, and it was like I walked to the left and they walked to the right because my car was that way. And he was like, oh, are you good? And I was like, yep. And I get in the car and I was like, what the literal fuck was that? I haven't felt that rejected in such a long time. Like, I felt so bad about myself. I felt like I was not good enough. I felt like just like all of these really ugly feelings were coming up, but beautiful, because it was obviously all things that I needed to move through. And so I cried the whole way home. I was so upset and really just leaning into my feels of just like, wow, that hurt. That really felt shitty. That felt really yucky. It was interesting as I was driving home. I went on Instagram. So the following weekend, I was meant to be hosting an event in Delray. And I saw that this guy that I used to date back in LA, he was DJing an event for the same woman. And so I messaged him because I had a feeling that the next weekend I was going to bump into him. And so kind of simultaneously, as I'm having this woe is me sad girl moment driving home crying, I messaged him and I was like, hey, are you in Florida? Because again, I didn't want to just bump into him. I think also I was feeling sorry for myself and I wanted some male validation. So of course I fucking reach out to the guy that that was a whole other thing. A big part of why that relationship dissipated was because, again, I didn't feel like he saw and valued me at all. He was one of those people that made me feel like I was too much. And so, of course, as I'm moving through this energy, I reach out to this person, again, with no intention of rekindling anything, but I don't know. Like, I feel like it was maybe a little bit of a self-sabotagey moment, maybe a little bit of just, I'm seeking external validation, so I'm going to do this thing. It was just a very human moment. I reached out to him. He was like, yes, I am. He ended up calling me. And so I spent half my drive crying, feeling sorry for myself, feeling rejected. And then I spent the other half of the phone call, like, talking to this ex of mine from 2021. And he had said, yeah, I'm in South Florida. I might be going to that event that you're going to next week. And he was like, I've been following what you've been doing on social media and I'm really proud of you and I feel like you're really stepping into your purpose and your dharma. All of the things that I felt like he didn't get about me before, now he was reiterating to me, not bringing up any emotions for me in terms of desiring to reconnect with him romantically at all. But it was really nice to get to have somebody from my past who didn't see me now, years later, see me, while I'm moving through the energy of being sad that somebody that I thought that there was a potential connection with didn't see me. So that was interesting. That was definitely very, very, very interesting. I ended up actually seeing him. So the next weekend I did my activation in Delray and I did see him in person and it was nice. I don't think I've had that with an ex before where I've dated somebody and then a really long period of time goes by and then I see them again and there's like a friendshipy energy. So that was kind of cool. Definitely no romantic feelings at all, but I could see this little spark in his eye of like, oh, he sees me now in a way that he didn't before. So I bring all that up as well, just to kind of talk about the rejection and redirection. And while that really fucking hurt, what that guy did to me and what that brought up, it was like also like being able to move through the energy way, way, way faster. I think a past version of me, I'm not going to ignore the fact that I feel rejected. I'm not going to ignore the fact that I feel sorry for myself, but I think being able to recognize what emotions are being brought up and transmute them and move through them on a physical level, I felt really bad about myself and I felt like I wasn't good enough and I felt rejected. And then on a cognitive level, I was like, that's not my person, obviously, because I have this whole laundry list of what I'm desiring in a partner. And number one is that this person sees and values me. And so I think that, that connection with the guy that I dated back in 2021 coming up like right around the same time, I was like, confirmation. I am looking for somebody that sees and values me. I'm looking for somebody that thinks I'm God's gift to the world, that sees my magic, that is blown away by me, that is so inspired by me. And if that's not you, then you're not my person. So I can feel sad, and then I can move through that energy and transmute it and get to the other side. The craziest thing about it, though, and this is what's so funny, is that meeting this guy and his friend, I don't want to say names, but I realized upon reflection that they are literally doppelgangers of the two guys that I met in Tulum. I told you guys, if you listen to my Tulum episode, there were two guys there's one guy that I had like a romantic thing with, and then he was traveling with his best friend. And these guys that I met in Miami literally were Miami version of these guys. Like, same type of guy. Checked all the boxes of they're smart, they're ambitious, they're well off, they love to travel, they don't really drink, but they are intentional about substances. Like, check, 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 check. And they're best friends and they do everything together. One's brunette, one's blonde. And I call up this girl that I met when I was in Tulum, the manifestation coach that I ended up moving in with after I moved out of the villa in Tulum. And I call her up and I was like, you are the only person that's going to fucking understand this. I don't understand what's happening. I just met the same people twice and had the same exact experience, because that's exactly what happened with me in Tulum, where I connected with these guys. I had this amazing experience with them, and then there was this really big rejection moment, and I was like, what does it mean? Why did I just meet the same exact people again in different bodies? What is going on? I told her what ended up happening, and she goes, oh, I'm really surprised. And I was like, why? And she was like, I'm surprised that you're saying that it didn't work out, because I feel like you're getting really, really close to it working out. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she keeps bringing up this concept of driftwood. So driftwood, in the context of manifestation, refers to small signs or synchronicities that show that you are getting closer to what you're calling in, like pieces of wood washing up on shore before the ship fully arrives. It's a concept from the law of attraction that suggests that when you start noticing things similar to what you are manifesting, it's confirmation that it's on its way. And so I was just kind of bugging out, because I was like, what the fuck is the universe doing here, right? As I just explained with the last few weeks, like all of these synchronicities, all of these things. It's like Mindful Music Lab on Saturday, Mindful Music Lab brought up on Sunday morning, Mindful Music Lab brought up on Sunday. And I'm like, okay, interesting. I'm desiring to connect with this person. This person is the one person outside of a fucking 500 person event that asked me for a ride home. Okay. I connect with some random person at the beach, and I go back to his house and he has a fucking Burning Man costume closet. I'm like, what are the odds of all of these things just aligning the way that they're aligning? Something is happening. Something is unfolding. Say that I want to have a job, and then 2 days later I get offered a remote position that's like super, super aligned. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, seriously, what's going on here? And I love this idea of driftwood. I love this idea of it's coming. It's all coming together, and just continuing to follow the breadcrumbs, continuing to stay in alignment and take the steps necessary. And again, as this whole podcast is all about, like, spirituality meets practicality, it's getting the mindset right and then taking the aligned action to make that happen. And so following the breadcrumbs, taking the steps, learning the lessons, integrating the lessons, iterating, shifting, moving. It's all happening in real time, and it's so crazy. So after that conversation with this girl, she was like, you need to write down your list. And I was like, I've had a list of what I'm calling in and what I'm desiring for partnership for a really long time. But she's like, write it fucking down, get super clear on it, because it's so close. And I think this was great confirmation. And again, just tying it all back to the lunar eclipse. When you have clarity on what you're desiring, and when you're able to step into that reality, it's able to manifest faster. That's the whole name of the game. It's the reticular activating system, allowing you to see it, visualize it, and call it in, and then take those steps and make it happen. Every single time I set an intention, something crazy happens, something crazy unfolds, and being discerning of knowing, okay, that's not it, but maybe this is. So all of this to say, confirmation, driftwood is happening, the expanders are happening, we're being more discerning, we're getting clarity, we're calling in what we're desiring, and shit is unfolding in perfect timing. So bringing all of this to the event in Delray, before we wrap up, I want to tell you guys about that experience. So back in December, when I got flown out to Toronto to do the Manifest Live activation, I was posting a ton about what that experience was, and there is an ecstatic dance facilitator in Florida, in Delray, that saw what I was doing, and she was like, when are you coming back to Florida? I'd love to have you. And so I ended up opening up their ecstatic dance in Delray this past weekend, and it was so amazing. I was super nervous. I've been getting clarity on what the experience is. I've only done it a handful of times, and I think this is just further confirmation of feel the fear and do it anyway, of not feeling fully ready, not feeling fully prepared to do the thing that you're desiring to do. But if it's something that you know that you're meant to do, just saying yes and trying and iterating on it. So this was my third time doing it, but I spent the whole afternoon just really perfecting it and getting clear on it. I've been doing my pre-game meditation for a while on my own personal practice, but it's very different when you're leading it with a big group of people. And so I went to Delray and I did this, and the feedback was so magical. Like, it was such a moment of confirmation of, okay, I'm in alignment. I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. People were just like, one, just obsessed with me. I was wearing a really fun outfit. I had a purple wig and a sparkly outfit, and so many people, the best compliment I think I've ever gotten in my whole life, this girl looked at me and was like, oh my God, you literally look like my higher self. And the feedback was incredible. People just really, really resonated with it. And it was just a moment of pure confirmation that I am on the right track, that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And it felt so, 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 so good. So that was amazing. The last few weeks have just been so expansive, so beautiful, so exhausting. I'm so tired. I'm integrating so much with all of these wisdoms and lessons and relational shifts and all the things. But we are making moves. Big things are happening. Upcoming tomorrow, I am doing my third rave to remember at my grandma's senior center. So this is a sensory rich rave experience for seniors with Alzheimer's and dementia. So I'm doing that tomorrow. We have our intentional field trip to space coming up, where we're going to go see Fisher. And before that, I'm going to lead the pregame meditation. Alex is going to do a bit of a sunrise set, and then we're going to caravan over to space, and everybody's going to throw down. So that's going to be absolutely incredible. Then we have actual Miami Music Week. And then I'm here for a little bit longer. I'm going to have a couple phone calls in the next few weeks to see if there's opportunities for collaborations. There are talks about doing a Pups and Chill Made for Magic, a Manifest takeover. So that's potentially coming up. I'm going to be doing a speaker workshop with Alex. So she is a professional speaker, and I've been desiring to have my own talk for a really long time. And so I'm going to do social media for her for that event. And then I'm also going to participate in it. So hopefully come out of that with a signature talk, which is very exciting. Also, in the midst of all of this, I have recommitted to my yoga teacher training. So my desire is to finish that ASAP, because I'm going to be leading a retreat with my friend Nicole. We're going to do a surf and yoga retreat later this year. And so that's upcoming on the docket, which is very, very exciting. Obviously, Alex and I, all of this prep that we're doing is for us to launch our own event. The event is called Dave's House Party. That's going to be a sober morning rave based in Miami. And ideally, we'd like to start doing that monthly. So that's in the works, and that's all brewing. And then I'm gearing up for my Mexico City trip in April. So lots of really fun things to look forward to, lots of wisdom, lots of medicine, and we're just chugging along. So I appreciate you all for being here, for listening to the journey. If this episode resonated with you at all, please share with a friend. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.